Welcome everybody, this is Annica Törneryd, founder of Act to Exceed. Today I'm talking to a person who came into my life at the perfect moment and is actually one of the founding bricks in my new life. Part of a lot of changes I've been through, and I'm very happy to welcome Mr. Christian Mickelsen. Welcome.
Thank you. Super excited to be here.
Yes, thank you. So am I. So you're the father of 3 little girls, happily married, successful businessman, and running an awesome business. Can you tell us where your business is at today? Future Force Inc. How many people do you have working for you, and what does it feel like to get acknowledged for your work and be listed on Fortune 500 of fastest growing companies in America?
Wow. Thank you. So that's a lot of questions. I'll answer as many as I remember.
Yeah.
So last year we did about $4 million in sales. This year our goal is 5 million or more. I'm not sure. We're on track. We're on track. I don't know. Whether I'm not sure exactly where we'll end up since it's still August. We still have 4 months to go. See how we do. Yeah, making the list for Inc. 500, Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies in North America 2 years in a row, actually. So that's awesome. Very, very happy about that. That feels really good.
Mm-hmm.
How does it feel being acknowledged? I would say that's one of the greatest things about having a business where you're actually helping lots of people is it's hard to have a bad day because every day there's some comments in one of our Facebook groups or emails coming in about just the impact that I'm making in people's lives. So I love it, honestly. I love seeing people take something I share or a healing that happens or whatever it is and actually do something with it and get some results and how their life changes. And since I work with a lot of coaches, not only does their life change, but all their clients' lives change. So it's pretty amazing.
All right. What is the absolute best part about being you right now? From a business perspective and from a personal perspective?
The best part about being me right now. That is I don't think I've ever been asked that one. That is an interesting question. Best part about being me. I would say the peace, the gratitude, the joy that I get to experience most days, pretty much every day, in varying quantities. But yeah, I mean, most people think it's once you have the money, then you can have the peace, it's like, and I used to feel that way when I didn't have a lot of money. And I felt like, once I have making a certain amount of money or I have a certain amount in my bank account, then I'll be able to relax. Then I'll stop worrying about money. And I found that even when I did make more money and have more money in my bank account, that I still was worrying about money. And I realized that my worries about money really weren't about money. They were about, I was actually afraid to not have money because I grew up ashamed of my financial situation as a kid. We were on welfare and I had to stand in line at school to get a free lunch. And it was like everybody could see all the kids who were getting the free lunches. And I just felt so ashamed of that. I got teased a lot for my clothes that were from my brothers who were 8 and 9 years older than me, who, one would wear them for a year or so. Then the next one would wear them for a year or so. And then 5 or 7 years later, I would fit in them. I wear those. And I get teased for those. So I had all this shame built up that like being poor was like something to be ashamed of or something. And now, so we think that it's like, oh, like if I have the money now, of course you can relax. You're rich, But the truth is that it doesn't matter how much money you have. It matters how much peace you have. So you've got to it's getting the peace that gives you the peace. It's none of the other stuff. So I'm a personal growth-aholic, I'm just always working through my stuff and letting go. Not like an achievement-aholic, like I'm like, oh, go. I actually don't work that much. For 9 months, I was working 7 days a month. leading up to and then we had our big launch a few months ago. So I started working more, around 35 to 40 hours a week for some weeks.
You said
But
7 days a month, right?
Yeah, 7 days a month. So that's very little, right? two days, less than 2 days a week, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not about, when I say I'm a personal growth aholic or whatever, it's just, I just love feeling good. I have a low tolerance for feeling bad. Maybe I'm a wimp or something. I just can't handle not feeling good. So whenever something comes up, I'm always working through it, letting go, using the peace process and instant miracle to just keep surrendering more and more. And, just living in that state of gratitude, joy, peace, love, not constantly, certainly I'm a human being and things happen and things push my buttons sometimes, but less and less, and I feel more and more free every day. And it's that's probably the best part about being me.
Okay. So there are people who totally get that, who agree with you, and who knows that that's the way it is, that you don't get happy just because you get rich or have more money. But for all the people who are convinced that, oh, no, they need to get that amount on their bank account, or they need to marry someone rich or get that promotion to have all that money, and then they'll be happy. What is something, if you have a close relationship to someone like that and you want them to be happy, you're not responsible for their happiness, but you sort of want to help. What would you say?
Well, first of all, go for having lots of money. I think that is a good thing. There's nothing wrong with wanting lots of money, having lots of money. It's a beautiful thing. It's a gift from God, really. I think we demonize and we feel, because we maybe feel bad if we don't have a lot of money, then we're like projecting things onto people who do. And so the more you do that, the harder it is to get there, because those things become blocks to you actually having more wealth and being rich. One of the things I believe is that even though I felt ashamed and felt like I was poor growing up, is really now I think I look back and I think, man, I was so rich. And not because I had a great family life and I was like, oh, I was rich because we had so much love in our family. No, we had a lot of chaos in our family, a lot of fighting happening in our family, a lot of crazy shit happening in my family growing up. But I was rich because we had a roof over our head, Not a day went by where I didn't have enough food to stay alive, or enough water to stay alive, or enough air to stay alive, or enough shelter. There were times when we didn't have electricity because we didn't have enough money to pay the bill, or gas to, heat the house, water. I mean, all those things, would get turned off sometimes and eventually get turned back on. So, we definitely didn't grow up what most people would think of as rich, but, if you're alive, you're rich. I think, the sun comes up every single day for us. Sometimes it's behind the clouds, but it's there every single day in, day out, like clockwork, right? We always have enough air to breathe. We've never run out of air unless, you had some freak swimming accident, or somebody, tried putting a pillow over your face that night or something. But, if we're alive, we've always had enough air to breathe, enough water to drink, enough food to eat, and enough shelter to keep us alive. And if we're alive, we're rich. If you're alive, you're rich. God provides so much for us. So, I think if you don't think you're rich and you don't have money, and it's like, oh yeah, it's easy for you to say you're so rich now, but back then that would have been, you're right. You're probably right. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's, maybe it is harder for you. Maybe there's no way you can possibly see yourself as rich right now. But what if you could? What if right now you started thinking, wow, I'm rich? What if right now you took on the identity of being rich? And one of the things I teach in my events is, thank God we're rich, and just really taking on that identity and owning, I'm rich. You don't have to have 2 houses on the same street, or, designer clothes or fancy cars to be rich. I really think the richest person on earth isn't the person with the most money in their bank account, which happens to be, or the biggest net worth, which happens to be Bill Gates right now. I think the richest person in the world is the person who's the most grateful. If you're grateful for, music, grateful for being like seeing a flower bloom, smelling a flower. I'm grateful for a sunset, you know, grateful for a sunrise, grateful for people in your life, grateful for the lessons that God provides us in the people in our lives that push our buttons. You know, years ago, I was publicly harassed and humiliated at work by somebody. His name was Charles. And at the time, it was horrible, of course, and I didn't know what to do about that whole situation. But one of the greatest gifts about that is it motivated me to get the hell out of that job and start this business that I'd been wanting to start for years. You know, so life, there's, you know, a phrase that I've heard, I don't know if Tony Robbins originated it, but I heard it from Tony Robbins. He says, you know, life isn't happening to us, it's happening for us. So, you know, the things that we think are the tough times, the things that we think are hard, like that's just to help change our direction. When things are tough, it's like when things are great, we're just going to keep going along. We're comfortable. You know, it's like, oh, I'm going to stay at this job. You know, I'm never going to, I want to start this business, but, you know, this job's not so bad. And, you know, and it's, you get these golden handcuffs where like you're stuck, but it's like so pretty and it's so nice over there, but it's not what you feel called to do. It's not what you're passionate about. But it's like, oh, but it's so okay here, you know? So the pain comes into our lives to help us change direction. You know, maybe it's a big breakup or a big whatever it might be that helps to wake us up. You know, the breakup to wake up. So, you know, we think that life is hard, and it can be for sure. But really, life is just a series of feelings, things that happen, and then we feel a certain way. And one of the things I learned years ago is that, you know, all of our fears are fears of feelings. Everything we're afraid of, we're not really afraid of something, we're afraid of how we would feel if something were to happen. So years ago when I was constantly worrying about money, it wasn't the money. I was like, I couldn't logically figure it out. I'm like, okay, well, let's say I lose all the money. I don't have any money. I lose my house. I lose my car. I'm like, what's the worst that could happen? The only thing I could think of logically is like, okay, well then I'm homeless and I like, you know, walk the streets like, and I, you know, and then even that's probably not going to happen because I have some friends. I'm sure somebody would let me sleep on their couch for a little while. Like I couldn't possibly logically understand what I was really afraid of until I noticed and tuned into my emotions. And I realized that what I was really afraid of was people seeing that I was poor, seeing, and then me feeling ashamed of it. And so what I was really afraid of it had nothing to do with the money. It had to do with me feeling ashamed. So all of our fears are fears of feelings, and if we're willing to feel those feelings, the worst that can happen is that we feel things. And sometimes we're going to feel things that feel great, and sometimes we're going to feel things that don't feel great. And no matter how rich you are, that's still going to be true. There's still going to be things that are going to make you feel not so good, because it's not about the money, it's about what the money means, right? For me, the money meant, not having money meant shame, and I was running from that, like, oh my gosh, I'm trying so hard and not letting anybody see me not being rich, even though I wasn't rich at the time, or didn't feel rich, and I was, you know, falling behind on my mortgage. I was constantly running from this sense of shame, and most of us are running. We're constantly running from some feelings, and when we surrender and finally just let ourselves feel these feelings, and I have a great process called the peace process, where we actually just tune in and feel the feelings and let them go. Once we release it, it doesn't own us anymore, and we can get to this place of peace, joy, love, happiness, abundance, prosperity, success, and so much of it is, you know, you can get to that place and enjoy it, and it doesn't matter what's going on the outside. It doesn't matter, you know, if you know, you don't know where the money's going to come to pay your next bill or your next meal or pay for your mortgage or house payment or car payment. But if you're at peace and you're surrendered, you know, things are going to show up for you. You're going to be present. You're going to notice when there's opportunities, and you're going to attract all the things that you want into your life and more.
Nice. I just want to say to Charles, if ever he hears this, look at him now. Look at him now. All right.
I would say if I got to meet Charles again, I would say, you know, it was really hard. And I don't know if you realize the impact that you have on people when you treat people that way. But I know that the reason you treat people that way is because there's something inside of you that you're probably running from. You know, you probably don't feel good enough, successful enough, big enough, whatever it might be. And I, you know, I want to say, I'd love for you to not treat other people that way. And I'd love to help you resolve whatever is inside of you that makes you that, you know, leads you to treat people that way. And I also want to say that, as tough as it was, it actually ended up being the kick in the butt that I needed. So, so thank you.
Thank you, Charles.
So thank you. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you, Charles.
Yes.
But so if you want to get hooked up with Christian, check out the link underneath afterwards. Okay. At a live event in 2014, I heard you share your personal story of when you were at a much different place than you're at today, and you were considering giving up and start working as a garbage man, I believe.
Yeah.
And looking back to when you drew that line in the sand and decided to not give up until today, what has been your biggest challenge in reaching success? Or your biggest piece of action, be it changing mindset or be it something else? What's the big thing you had to do in order to make it happen?
Yeah. So the biggest challenge I had, it was my own, self-doubt, doubting myself. Can I really do this? Who am I? I mean, I was, 25 years old when I was starting off as a success coach, and I was, struggling to pay my mortgage, which is like, oh my gosh, like I'm not very successful. Who's going to hire me? And, and then I had heard that you should you should coach people for free when you're starting out. And so I had some clients that I was coaching for free, and they wouldn't show up for their calls, and they weren't getting results. And I was like, oh my God, I suck as a coach. Just, and not realizing that, well, they're not paying, they're not really invested, and I noticed like the more people were, when I started getting paying clients, and then the clients were paying like $500 a month versus $200 a month, the $500 a month clients were a lot more serious and focused and were getting better results. I started realizing like, wait a second, most of this has nothing to do with me. It has so much to do with them. But that didn't matter. Like back then, I just, I didn't know that. And I had so much self-doubt. And really when you have doubt, you can find evidence for why you suck, why you're not that good. I just actually led my best live event ever a few weeks ago. And I had everybody, we do these abundance assessments to see how abundant people are in all these different areas of their life. So I have everybody take them on the first day, and then we had everybody take them on the last day. And everybody, like 99% of the people in the room's numbers went up dramatically. But there were few people that there was like there were like maybe 4 or 5 people with no change, and one person said their numbers actually went down. And I'm like, oh man, I failed, I'm like, oh.
You felt that?
Yeah, I totally felt that way for like, for a few minutes while I'm like leading the event, and it's the end of the day, the last day, and I'm wrapping this sucker up, and now I was in this great space the whole event, and now all of a sudden I'm like looking and I'm thinking, oh my God. And I remembered actually, and I shared this with everybody as a lesson, which is that, I had a program years ago. It was actually the program that helped take me from making around $100,000 a year to making $250,000 a year. Like I was signing people up for this program left and right. People were getting great results, but there were a few people who weren't getting great results. And because of that, I thought, oh, I shouldn't do this program. Let me just go back to working with people one-on-one, because I have more influence over each specific person and whether they're doing the work or not. With the group programs, sometimes people can just kind of hang out in the background and hide a little. And so I was like, and so I canceled this program just because of a few people who weren't getting the success that I thought they should all have. Then I should get like 100% success rate. Everybody who joins my program should all have success within, 2 months or something.
Yeah.
So I ended up canceling that program, which really was, a big setback in my business. I didn't realize what was driving me to make that decision back then. But at this live event, I realized look how, like everybody in the room could see, there were 311 people there, and everybody could see all these people standing up that had dramatic improvements in their abundance scores, which is just, is one of the things that we help people with at the events. Obviously, we help people with other things, and with the Instant Miracle Healing, people had huge shifts. Some people, like this one lady, was living at a level 10 pain almost every day since she was 6, and the very next day, this was on day 1 of the event, she mentioned this, the very next day, she got out of the bed, no pain pain-free. She's, this has been about a month or so since the event. She's, saw her, she's followed up on the Facebook group, still 100% pain-free. So like, even though all these miracles are happening, people who needed hearing aids don't need them anymore, people who vision even getting better, like all these miraculous things happening, but because these couple people not getting, feeling like, and that's the other thing too, is like, I know, because I've been doing this for years, that these people, even though they may not notice a difference, that so much has shifted for them that when they go home, they might notice that they're not triggered as much by things. And a lot of the healing is so subtle that sometimes we don't even realize that something has happened until like, oh wait, I used to have a problem with public speaking and now I can just go do it, no problem, or whatever the case may be. But it's so easy to look at the numbers of people who are the outliers, who aren't, maybe reporting as good a numbers as somebody else, and think, oh my God, but yeah, so back in the early days, so even now, I mean, even today I can still doubt myself. But back in the early days, oh my God, I had so much self-doubt. So the biggest thing I had to work through was my own fears, doubts, insecurities. Really, doubts and insecurities were the biggest.
Okay, so even the great master himself at letting go and not being attached to the outcome, still to this day have moments of challenge with this thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I am 100% human in human being. Yeah, I'm not, I haven't transcended, anything disturbing my peace ever. It's my threshold for anything to come in and push buttons, it's not, I'm not, there's some people who are like constantly triggered by all kinds of things. Most of that's gone. But every now and again, certain things, push some buttons. I'm still growing, if I were to go meditate on a mountain, there's probably not that much that would push my buttons because there's not much happening there. But if you want to really grow, there's 3 things you can do that will grow you, and they're all decisions you can make. You can just live a safe little life, or you can do any of these 3 things. Any one of these is a pretty big spiritual adventure. If you decide to do all 3, it's quite the opportunity to grow. The first one is to decide whether to have a relationship with someone or not, like a romantic relationship, right? Mm-hmm. You can live single by yourself. Things, you might be lonely, sad, whatever, but the level of complexity is much less. It's just you, right? As soon as you get into a relationship, the complexity level doubles at least, if not 10x. Right? And if you're a man 10x. And you're dating a woman, it probably goes up 100x. No offense, ladies. Okay. Women, I'm just saying men are simpler than women. Although
no comments.
Probably women think men are more complicated because they don't understand how simple we are. I was just watching a comedian talking about this. So anyway, we'll put that aside. Anyway, you get into a relationship with somebody of the opposite sex or same sex, if that's your preference. That's going to grow you, right? The second thing that can grow you like crazy is having kids, right? You don't have to have kids. If you don't have kids, life is so much simpler. I heard a statistic that the happiest people are people who are married without kids, and so, having a relationship, there's so much complexity, so much room for growth. But that is so much simpler than having kids. Now you have kids, or 1 kid, or 2 kids, or 3 kids in my case. It's like there's so much more opportunity for things to like find out more about who you are and what pushes your buttons and how you think about things and how you think you're going to be as a father or a mother or whatever. And then you have the kid and it's like, oh, wow. I thought my wife and I were like, we're so enlightened. We're going to raise these nice enlightened kids. We're going to feed them healthy food all the time. And, and then you have the kid and they're like crying and screaming and having a tantrum in the store for the first time. And you're like, oh my goodness. I thought, I'm a good dad. Like what is, and it doesn't matter. The kids are going to do all sorts of crazy stuff. And that's going to help you have to let go of all sorts of, things that you think about who you are and what you are. And you got to let all that stuff go. And then the third one is having your own business. I definitely had a lot of challenges in the last job I had with Charles, but most of the time for most people, having, working for someone else, it's simpler. It can certainly be complicated. It can be high pressure. It can be stressful, no doubt. But if you want to take things to the next level, have your own business. Having your own business, you're going to have to learn so much more, push so much more buttons. So these are three big arenas of life that you don't have to choose. And there's nothing wrong with not choosing them either. There's nothing wrong with choosing to stay single, choosing to not have kids, or choosing to not have a business. There's nothing wrong with those choices. But if you choose those, that is the fast track for rapid growth, especially if you have tools to work through and let go of all the stuff that's triggering you. Otherwise you're kind of just going to be suffering a lot through those things.
Yeah. Okay. Good point. In your own opinion, what skill or gift or understanding is it that you have that enables you to ask such great questions when you coach? I've seen it live at several occasions, and I've heard it on live calls. What is it? What is that thing you do or have?
Yeah, so I don't know for sure. I'll share some of my thoughts about where some of these things come from. But I'm always looking for what's the result that the client wants, and what needs to shift in order for them to get the result. So I'm super my unconscious mind is sweeping, for what's going on here, what's happening underneath the surface, what needs to change here, what's the real question that's going to help them either see what they need to see, or help us both to unveil what needs to be seen for both of us. So that's one thing, is just I've been coaching for 17 years now, I think. And, not, just coaching friends even longer. So, a lot of experience. And then I'd say one of the biggest things that has happened over the last 10 years is my intuition is just growing, maybe exponentially. I don't know. It's just getting stronger and stronger. So I can tune into somebody and just kind of the same thing. My unconscious mind or my intuition, whatever, is just kind of sweeping somebody's energy field or something. I don't know what, but it's just super tuned in and can just pick up on things so fast. Just kind of guess, just know what's happening for some people before even things they don't even know. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So if you had to pick one word, to help someone who wants to get better or help people to get to a result or an outcome faster, if you have to pick a word a character, something in your character to have curiosity, eagerness to help, really like to talk to people or something, what would you say? Something that really helps in getting better?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think, really intuition is the biggest. One of the things that I realized was always driving me, because I felt, my parents fought all the time, and I wanted to make my mom happy, which is probably one of the big drivers in my life. That's got me into being a coach and all the stuff that I'm doing. But I was just always looking for, how can I take the pain away? What could I do to help people let go of the pain? I'm not saying that's a great question to ask. I'm just saying that's kind of what has driven me over the years. Now I'm aiming to ask, much better questions for my own life, just because one of the problems with, how can I take the pain away, is assumes people are in pain, and it's constantly looking for pain. So I don't know that that's the best question. But because of that, there is value in the question too, though, because it can look for where there is pain and find ways to what's really going on. Let's clean that up, heal that up, and move on. A different question to ask that I'm asking myself all the time is just, what's perfect about this? What's magical about this? How can I appreciate the magic of this moment even more?
Yeah, good question.
Those are for myself. For when we're working with clients, I would say, questions what's really happening here, what needs to shift in order for them to get the breakthrough they're looking for. I'd say those are probably the biggest questions, something like that.
Okay. I wanted to ask you about starting before you're ready.
Yeah.
So can you share shortly the story about an interview you did an interview for a pretty big magazine where you asked them if they could add the link to your website, but your website wasn't even ready.
Yeah.
And what outcome you got from doing that, jumping without having wings even.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So yeah, this was years ago. I had decided for myself that I wanted to be a leader of the coaching industry, even though nobody knew who I was, and I was a coach that wasn't all that successful yet anyway. But I just felt like, I had so much to offer. So on one hand, I had a lot of self-doubt, but on the other hand, I had some weird confidence. I've had this weird interplay of confidence and doubt really throughout my life, but especially through my business and my career. So I made that decision. And so I had been coaching business owners for years, and now a lot of coaches had been, asking how, I was able to get clients and wanting to know some of my secrets. So I started sharing with other coaches how they could get results. And actually the first 5 clients that were coaches that hired me, I was able to help them grow from 0 to 100,000 a year in their business within 18 months. And one of them did it in 72 days. And so I realized, wow, all the stuff that I struggled to figure out in my coaching business, I could share with other people, and they could have success, so much faster. So I started focusing on helping coaches, and I was creating a website for that, but it wasn't ready yet. And Forbes magazine called me one day and left a voicemail for me. I saw the call come through on caller ID and it said Forbes, and I just figured they were going to try to sell me a magazine subscription or something, or an ad, do an ad in their magazine or something. So I let it go to voicemail, and I was having a down day. I was just feeling kind of low, self-doubt was high. And I listened to the voicemail, and I guess, I don't know how they found out about me, like somehow they saw my website, but not my new website for coaches, but my old website for coaching business owners. And I wasn't even, like, if you Googled business coach, I wasn't even, or coach, like I was nowhere near on I don't even know, like, what, I have no, like, this is where I feel like when you declare something or you decide something, that the universe conspires in your favor. So I get this voicemail, and I'm like having such a crappy day that day. And I was like, I didn't want to, this is one of those days where you just don't want to get out of bed. And I get this call from Forbes, and they want to ask me questions about the coaching industry. So they want to interview me. Now, not me, they just want to interview someone to get information about the coaching industry and if it's a 6-figure career, because it was an article about 6-figure careers. So I get this voicemail, and I'm like, I'll call back tomorrow when I'm in a better place. That was my first thought. And then I thought, well, they're not trying to interview me. They're just trying to interview someone about this. So like, if I don't call them back now, they're just going to keep calling people until they get somebody that answers their questions. So I called them back right away, talked to him, answered all his questions, and I asked if they could put my new website in the article. And they said, well, we can't put a link. I'm like, can you put a link to my website in the article? And they're like, because it's going to be published online. I'm like, they said, no, they can't do that. I'm like, well, we don't do hyperlinks. I'm like, well, can you just list it, even if it's not linked, Said, well, I don't know. And my website wasn't even ready yet. I'm like, it's almost ready. It's going to be ready, in the next couple of days. So it should be, by the time your article's ready to go out, it'll definitely be ready, right? And so that's crazy to even, it's crazy to ask it. It's crazy because it's not ready. And then I said, well, do you have an email address? I'll send you some info on, some backup supporting documentation on what I shared with you. He's like, oh yeah, that would be great. So I got his email address. I sent him this stuff, and I asked him again, hey, can you post a link or post my, include my website in the article? And he didn't reply, and I just assumed he probably wouldn't. But I also said, hey, let me know when the article comes out. I'll share it with lots of coaches in the coaching community so we can get more readership for the article, thinking that he'd be interested in that. And I didn't know, never heard back from the guy. And then all of a sudden I got emails from people saying, like, people that I had known, past clients years ago, saying, "Hey, I saw your name in this article on Yahoo." I'm like, "Yahoo?" I was interviewed by Forbes. I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And then I got a couple more emails from people that I knew, and then and I was getting lots of emails from people I didn't know who were asking me about this article. So Forbes published the article. It got picked up by Yahoo. It eventually got picked up by MSN, and so all that, I got all these people. So they published the article. He included my website, which wasn't even ready by the time the article went. It had a bunch of links, and like the homepage was ready, and maybe the About Me page was ready, but it had all these other links to pages that were said coming soon. And he didn't, there wasn't a hyperlink, but when the article got picked up by MSN, it naturally hyperlinks everything that has a .com at the end. So that did have a hyperlink. And so I got massive amounts of people coming to my website. Now, my website was set up to help coaches get clients, and a lot of these people weren't even ready to get clients because they didn't even know what a coach was or what coaching was, and they wanted to know info about that, which led me to write my first book, How to Quickly Get Started as a Personal Coach, and create a coach training program, the Rapid Coaching Academy. And yeah, I mean, it's crazy. So my website wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to even to do the interview. But yeah, you got to go for it. You got to be ready to go even when you're not ready. That's probably the number one secret to success in life, is just be ready to go even when you're not ready. When your number gets called, I was at one of Tony Robbins' events a few years ago, as you know, and during a period where we were supposed to do an exercise, I just went up and talked to him, and I shared about my instant miracle healing technique. Mm-hmm. And he asked, does it just work one-on-one, or does it work on whole groups? I'm like, no, it works in groups. He's like, can you do it for us? And he brought me up on stage to do an instant miracle for the whole audience at one of the events. So I was like, yeah, of course I could do it, but I mean, like, it's in my mind. I've gone to tons of events with Tony Robbins. He's definitely one of my somebody who's had a huge influence on my life. So to like be asked to come up on stage was like, it was awesome, exciting, and also terrifying, right? He's like, I'm going to bring you up in about a half hour. I'm like, okay. So I'm like, he's processing, instant miracling, letting it go as much as I can before he brings me back up. And and then I was up there and did it. So it was great. Yeah, you got to just be ready to go even when you're not ready. That is so true.
Big jump, big results.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have time for a few more questions?
I have time for one last question.
One last question. All right. Okay, my very last question is for anyone who wants to check out more about you, Christian Mickelsen, what he does, what he can help you with. Is there anywhere you would invite them to go and check?
Yeah, if you're interested in like the personal growth side of things, or if you're a coach and you want to learn how to get clients, you can actually get information on both of those things at my personal website, which is christianmickelsen.com, and Christian is spelled like that religion, Christian, and Mickelsen is spelled like Mickelsen, Mickelsen, christianmickelsen.com.
Yes, I'll add that in the comments. So
sweet.
As a hyperlink, so clickable.
No, yeah. I got interviewed by Forbes years ago, but this is even better. I got interviewed by Annica.
You don't even have to ask for it. I will put it there for you.
Nice.
And share it all over Europe, and you do the States. Okay, Christian, I thank you so much for taking the time and sharing, being transparent, and you. It has been a true pleasure. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. It's been an honor to be here with you. I love your energy and your spirit, and I love what you're doing in the world. So keep at it. Keep rocking.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Take care. Have a nice day.
You too. Cheers.
Bye.